I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak to you directly. My mother's dying at the moment, and I'm flying out on Monday.
And hear what you just said?
I'm flying out there on Monday, and I want to know how to serve her best. She's lost the use of all her faculties, just except she operates on a feeling level only.
She has outer awareness?
She just of feelings, but she has no mind.
No memories? She doesn't recognize people?
No, not really, though she smiles when she hears I'm coming.
Well, obviously there's some level of recognition there. In other words, there's nothing really unusual about her state. You can relate to her basically through all the means that you would ordinarily relate to her. She has physical sensation, she has outer awareness. There's still an emotional level there, there's some level of recognition. She's basically there. And it's not like, as it might be in some cases, I've told many stories over the years of the time when I was a chaplain in a mental hospital. This was something I had to do when I was in a Christian seminary. We had to spend the summer doing it. And among my obligations was to see people who were dying or close to death. I remember on one occasion going to see a woman who had no outer awareness whatsoever. And so there was no ability to talk to her. Have her recognize me even as a human being. There was no such outer awareness. But I could perform all the functions that I would in spiritual terms. I was still capable of all of my bodily and mental and emotional activity. So, just so in this case, you have all of your faculties, all of your abilities. You are fully alive as a devotee conscious in this world. So you should do with her all the things that I recommend that people do with one another, and that you do in the company of someone who is dying. And in this case, you don't have the limitation of her, at least presently, being bereft of awareness. She has basic faculties that make possible a relationship with her. So you should speak to her. If she doesn't speak to you even, you should give her the feeling that there is nothing between you that is negative. If there is anything that has been negative in the past, you should clear that up. Even if she doesn't speak to you, you should, through your conversation, make it clear to her that you forgive her, or that you feel forgiven by her, or anything that may be negative in your past. You should make it completely clear to her that you feel there is no limitation of that kind effective any longer. And if you like, you can read to her some things I've communicated about what the death process is, about simply surrendering, and that she should have no fear that death is going to destroy her. It is simply a transition into other experiences which will themselves pass and she'll eventually resume a human existence, or at least a personal existence in some form, in some environment or other, and she will, as she passes through those stages of experience after leaving this world, she will be given help. People come and talk to you, and they tell you where you are, what's happening. It's just like you. And in other words, try to bring to her a sense of the reality of her situation. Not in the dismal downtown sense of death, because that is completely untrue, that worldly, when you're dead, sort of terrible vision. What is true about death is this process we have considered here together. There are also plenty of traditional religious sources that talk about death in at least the basic positive terms of survival and continuation. The purpose of all that, and the transition, when the present body becomes too weak and so forth to go on, it is quite natural for it to be abandoned. But it is not a destruction of the being. Light cannot be destroyed. Light is always conserved, likewise. We, who are essentially forms of light, exist after death, but we continue to go through transformation, and our purpose of existence is to surrender to light itself, until instead of all the changes, we have only light. So she should surrender to God, knowing God is light and love and fullness and happiness and purpose and creative will, and let herself be carried from this world by that great influence without fear. Make sure she knows that you love her, that there are no unfinished things which demand her attention. Let her feel completely free to relax into the death process when it arises, when it finally occurs. In the meantime, she should simply surrender, know she is loved, know that you feel that she loves you, as well as the others who are intimate with her, that may be that way. Through various devices like this, which should be obvious because they're natural and human, simply serve that transition, because that's exactly what it is. And in the event when it finally occurs, although obviously the emotion of sorrow arises, we should remain as devotees in that moment, and instead of merely feeling sorrowful, we should exercise ourselves, surrendering to God in that moment, giving the one who has left our company complete permission to release all hold on this present existence. We should release them. We should cooperate with their release from this life, and not, in effect, try to trap them back here, try to keep them here, because the process they're entering into is God-made and inevitable. And we can be wholly adjusted to it by ourselves, continuing to surrender with full feeling and love of God, trusting this process. So in the actual event of her death, you must be active also then, as while she continues to live. You must realize equanimity through your own love and trust of the divine process. And then in the actual event, you must continue to love and trust this process, and give her permission to pass out of this present relationship she has with you, to pass completely out of sight. You should allow yourself in the days following it to be sensitive to any kind of unusual signification of her presence. It is quite typical for people to have experiences after the death of someone they know intimately, to have dreams, or to simply have unusual experiences of one another kind that are synchronous with the event of that person's passage. They don't necessarily mean the person's trying to communicate with you, but these kind of simultaneous events, associated events, typically arise. So allow yourself to be sensitive to those things, and they will be part of your own experiential evidence of the realities of this transition, this process we call death, that it isn't an ending. And after a few days, most likely you will stop having those experiences, because the psychic part of the being has separated not only from the physical body, but in general from the environment, has gone on to its further destiny. Although there can be experiences from time to time, particularly if a person maintains an emotional attachment to somebody who's passed. But in general, you should release all of that and release the person fully as they are dying and in the few days afterwards, until you are yourself completely content and surrendered in God. can continue your practice here without lingering on this particular event.